Lesson 13.2, Part B. Now here is where we will begin talking about a new unit of measure. We've been talking about degrees so far, and that's all you've really had. But today we're going to talk about radians for the first time. And the radians unit is a measurement around the circle, or the length of the circle, of a circle with radius 1. Now let's think for a moment that if you have a radius of 1, then that means that you could find the circumference by using 2 pi r. That's the formula for circumference. And if the radius is 1, then the circumference is 2 pi. So 2 pi represents one full circle. In other words, it's equal to 360 degrees. So one would say that if you only do half of a circle, 180, then that must be half of 2 pi, which would only be pi. And if you only go a fourth of a circle, which is 90 degrees, that would be half of a pi. So these are considered radian measures, or radians, and these are considered degrees. And they are found by looking at a circle with radius 1. So how do we convert from one unit to the other? If we are converting from radians to degrees, then we would take our radian measure and multiply it times 180 over pi. If we want to go from degrees to radians, then we'll take our degree measure and take it times pi over 180. So whatever you want to go to is on top in the fraction. So if we want to go to degrees, we want the 180 degrees in the top position. Now let's do some example conversions. We've already talked about this one right here. How many radians in one revolution of a circle? One revolution, of course, meaning 360 degrees. Well, we found that out on the previous screen. That is 2 pi. Now, how do we get that by work? Well, if we take 360 degrees and we want to go to radians, we would use this one, degrees to radians. So pi over 180. And we will multiply these two, which gives us 360 pi over 180. And we can reduce it, and we end up with what we wanted, 2 pi. 180. Okay, 180 degrees times pi over 180 is pi. And you have that on the other page as well. 90 times pi over 180 is pi over 2. And we're going to look at that as pi over 2. We'll talk about it as pi over 2. We rarely will say 1/2 pi. Okay, just for food for thought there. 270 times pi over 180 they can simplify as well. And I believe 90 can go into 180 twice, and 90 can go into 270 3 times. So we would write this one as 3 pi over 2. Again, 3 has pi is one way to say it, but we will refer to it probably most often as 3 pi over 2. Now let's go the other direction. How do you go from radians to degrees? Well, if I have pi as my radian measurement, I'll take that times 180 over pi, and that gives me 180 degrees. I'll finish with one comment at the bottom of here. I'm not going to say much more about this because we've already discussed this up above in the nice graph we had. If you want to go from radians to degrees, we'd use 180 over pi as your conversion. If you want to go from degrees to radians, put pi over 180 and use that fraction. So let's try a couple more examples with that newfound knowledge. We first have to decide what unit are we in. Okay, this one is going to need us to go from degrees to radians. So we're going to take 135 over 1 times pi over 180. Then you want to simplify as much as you can. If you don't, it just looks like this. But we know we can simplify it. And if we did so, we would get, I believe, 135 and 180 would simplify down to 3 pi over 4. 240 over 1 times pi over 180. Reduce that. Again, if we don't, it just looks like 240 pi over 180. So if we convert or simplify that, we would get 4 pi over 3. Over here, we have radians. Now I'm going to write this as 7 pi over 4 more clearly to show its fraction form. We're going to take that times 180 over pi. And you'll notice that right away our pi's cancel, and we're left with a fraction that we want to simplify, and 4 and 180 simplify. I think 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 180 45 times, 7 times 45, 315, and now we're in degrees. Pi over 3 is what that would look like more appropriately. Take that times 180 over pi. Three goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 180 60 times, so 60 degrees. So here ends our 13.2 Part B lesson. We have one more, and that's going to cover how to fill out the unit circle.